I want to take the opportunity of having you on this show to get your take on some of the types of questions that I get from moms
Yeah.
who are walking an unorthodox education path, at least unorthodox in the modern world, not necessarily historically at all, but more uncommon and with less support in the modern day. Um, and some of the more common challenges that they run into. Um, I had the pleasure of being a guest speaker on a session, like a Zoom session yesterday. It'll be a couple of weeks past by the time this episode's released. But it was a bunch of women on the call. Multiple of them are homeschooling moms. One of them had a question about how to communicate to her family and her in-laws, all of whom are, professionals inside the education system, very entrenched inside the status quo, about the very unconventional path that her high schoolers are taking. And it turns out that her daughter is like already building a business. She's a sophomore, a junior in high school, and she's, you know, deep in the process of having an entire business off the ground and fully functional by the time she graduates from high school. And all her extended family cares about is like, why is she not studying US history? Why is she not taking geometry? What would you say to a mother who is following what's true for her children and trusting that her daughter has a vision for her life? She has this calling that she's very excited about, and the mom's going to move heaven and earth to help her pursue that and not put any unnecessary roadblocks in her way, but is getting so much pushback from her community to the extent that she, it's like, man, am I messing up? Like, am I doing something wrong? And even if I'm totally trust what I'm doing, it's very uncomfortable to have everybody that I have to interact with thinking that I'm a horrible person for doing this.
It's exhausting. Oh my God, it's so exhausting to be the black sheep. I feel that mama deeply and completely, like to be the one outside of the norm. But that's the point. It's kind of like, oh, they're going to be homeschooled. Aren't you afraid that they're going to be different? That's the point. That's the point. I always come back into, I love you deeply and completely. I love you deeply and completely. This is how we're doing it. You get to see the kids whenever you want. We're with you on the holidays. They love you. We love you. I love you deeply and completely. Let them. The more soft and gentle we are with ourselves, is going to offer a response in that equal and opposite energy. Energy can never be created nor destroyed. It just exists as it is right now. And in those moments that are so activating, because I've had this a lot with my family and Jen's family, who we love and we're super close to. It's okay, because you just come back into it comes from a place of love, right? The grandparents don't want the grandkids to be left out, to feel different, to be left behind. So I think when it all comes from love, you just respond with love as well.
What about a mama who is not yet taking the leap, but she's getting ready to, and she's very afraid of all of the pushback she's going to get from her family or from her community? That fear is in some ways almost a different beast from the actual pushback that you're getting. What would you tell that mama?
I'm just thinking about how I would do this in my own life. I would probably say to my mom or my mother-in-law or my sister, who I'm close with all these people. But you start with, I'm really nervous. I'm very excited about this new opportunity where I am going to offer my child a different education. I'm nervous about this outcome and I want your support. What do you think? Sometimes we think that our family is going to be so against us and so resentful, but they really just want to be invited in and collaborate. They want to be part of the grandchild's or the niece or nephew's education. They want to be part of their life. So instead of pushing and shoving, it's coming together and collaborating as one. And you're always safe in your truth. And if you're nervous about something, speaking about from a place of, I'm nervous about this, and always do a one-on-one conversation. Don't post this in the group chat. I'm nervous about this next step. I feel really called to it. You can say, I want your opinion on it, but if you know it's going to be a negative response, you can say, I really just need your support for this. And we're going to try this out for the next semester, the next school year, and go from there. Try to be as gentle and soft as possible with yourself and then with others.
What would you say to a parent who sees the innate talent and potential in their child and has a sense of, oh, if my child just did this, or if they just followed this path, then this whole other thing that I feel like would give my child such fulfillment would be unlocked. But my child doesn't see it the same way I do and is not excited about this path that I see for them, coming from a place of, the parent deeply loves the child. The parent knows the child very well. The parent's very attuned to the child. They're not incorrect that the child is, this is a path that helps unlock more of their passions. But the child, for whatever reason, just isn't ready. They're not seeing it. And that's a very frustrating thing to just sit on sometimes as a parent. What would you say to that parent?
The parent is there to parent. Parents need to reclaim their power, like truthfully. I think gentle parenting has its place and is so important, but there comes a time and place where the parent does know best. If it's coming, it's, as you explained it, from goodness, from attunement to the child. If the parent thinks this is what's best, the parent gets to decide. So I would just say, trust yourself.
What would you say to the parent who is pulling their kid out of the traditional system? They've seen what's happening inside of schools. They've realized they are not a fan. They don't want this for their kid. And they're thinking about deschooling their child, like deprogramming some of the stuff that they picked up along the way, some of the junk programming before they get on with, all the positive things that they want to explore with their kid. But they're grappling with how to help their child rediscover their own personality, their own curiosity, their spark, their passion that has been quashed inside of the system in the name of fitting in or not getting bullied or keeping themselves, protected and safe from other people or, not getting in trouble all of the time. How might you advise that parent?
There are 3 things I would focus on. The first is books. Read books. Read as many books as possible. Fantasy, nonfiction, memoirs, some of the greatest books ever. Give them Harry Potter. Get them into reading is the most beneficial thing. Number 2 is I would get them into nature. So let them learn from the land. Let them play with the leaves. Let them lay in the grass. Let them get bug bites. Let them get sunburns. Let them be outside and learn from nature. And then the last thing I would say is language. Let them study other languages. It's like Duolingo is a free app on your phone. There are so many different ways to learn a new language, and that's where I would have them hang out for a little bit. I grew up in very traditional schooling. I am overeducated. Like, I feel like I did all the things. I give absolutely zero credit to my undergraduate degree. I'm almost no credit to my undergrad degree. But there are some things that I learned in middle school and high school. There are some things I learned in 3rd grade that were so transformational. And where I grew up, there's a very large Mexican population, and you learn a lot about Spanish and immigration in my high school system, which was really beneficial. But that's also something that can be replicated just by having friends that look different than you, that connect different than you. So those are the 3 ways I would start. Books, nature, language, and hone in on that. And travel. Book a plane ticket. I think it's so funny when parents are afraid to take their kids out of school. I find it really interesting. And maybe it's because my parents took us out of school for trips, and it came from a place of like how ridiculous and expensive it was to travel during winter and spring break. It's when flights were most expensive, it's when hotels were most expensive. So we would sometimes travel at off times. We also probably traveled during winter break, but also off times. And road trips, I think, are the most amazing way as well, because some of these practices, they might sound costly, but hopping in the car with your family and going to national parks in your country, that's an incredible way to learn history.